we moved him to the Willard Hotel fairly fast, a 5-star hotel right across from the White House. And they had their own bedroom. Each turkey had their own bed. We turned the lights out, and you go out in the hallway, and all of a sudden they're in their gobbling, right? And here comes mom and a little child, and she goes, "What's that?" And I said, "Oh, well, we have a couple of turkeys in that room there." And she's like, "You have what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're taking them to President Obama." And she goes, "Oh, can I see them?" So we walked her in the other connecting bedroom. And they're like, "I cannot believe there's 2 turkeys in this bedroom. They have their own room with their own beds, a TV, and everything."
They had free roam of a big old room in the Willard. So,
oh, I hope the housekeeper got paid well for that. Well, the election has come and gone, and while there's a lame duck currently sitting in the Oval Office, there will soon be a turkey at the White House. No, we're not talking about the next president of the United States, but rather the time-honored tradition of pardoning an actual live feathered gobbler from being a Thanksgiving meal at the residence of our nation's leader. But where do these turkeys come from? How do they get chosen, and what all is involved in the adventure and media frenzy it takes to get them there? We're going to learn all that and more on today's episode of Shooting the Shift. Hello, and welcome to Shooting the Shift, an adventure here at Shiftology Communication, where our team of communication professionals take time to reflect, share, and provide insights into what we do each and every day to help our clients reach more, convince more, and win more. I'm Dan Tolan, Director of Virtual Experiences here at Shiftology, and we're happy you're tuning in to today's episode titled, "There's a Turkey in the White House." Well, today on Shooting the Shift, we're very excited to be joined by some of our friends from Cooper Farms and Cassie Arend, our agricultural account manager, who is co-hosting the show again with me. And she'll have some interesting stories to tell because she was with Cooper Farms during the time that we're going to be talking about here. But I quickly want to introduce our guests, Gary and Cole Cooper. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourselves and who Cooper Farms is?
Sure. So, of course, I'm Gary Cooper. Grew up on the farm. It's located in Northwest Ohio. And my parents started back in 1938. And we raised turkeys, hogs, and chicken layers.
and I'm Cole Cooper, Gary's son, and I work in our business also, Cooper Farms. I work in our live division. I work with most of the live stuff and feed mills and all that stuff for Cooper Farms.
And you guys had a wonderful, unique opportunity. Now, this was about 10 years ago, but it's very timely because Thanksgiving's coming up. We just had an election. You guys had the opportunity to have a turkey pardoned at the White House, this great annual tradition. How was Cooper Farms selected to have a turkey pardoned? What's the history of the event that happens there? Gary, can you give us a little bit of background?
We have an association called the National Turkey Federation, and they've been in charge of this going back since, I think, 1948. And back in the beginning, the turkey that was brought to the White House, the president and his family actually ate that for Thanksgiving up until the point of, I believe it was Ronald Reagan's presidency. And he decided that, no, they didn't want to eat that turkey, so he pardoned it. So he started the tradition of it always being pardoned from then on. But what happens is in the next Turkey Federation, when you become the president of that group, you get selected to then raise the turkeys and take it to the White House. So that's how Cooper Farms and us got selected.
10 years ago was not the first time Cooper Farms got to take one.
That's correct. So we got to see President Obama and his family. My brother Jim, back in 1996, he took a tom turkey to see President Clinton.
Is it always a tom turkey?
I believe it's always been a tom turkey as far as I know. So, yes.
Yeah, the most recognizable, the big wattles and everything. I get it, the majestic looking turkey to get pardoned every year. So Gary, how long in advance then did you know about this opportunity, and when and how did you have to start planning for it?
When you get on the officers group, the next Turkey Federation, you actually have a 4-year notice because you start out as like secretary, then you go to the treasurer, then you go to the vice chairman, you go to the chairman of the presidency. So you have a lot of lead time, and so that makes it a lot easier. And the Federation and those who run it for us in DC, they've had so much experience doing it that they're really helpful in explaining, the whole process.
So you have time to sit there and plan. What are we going to do with this? You're not just going to pick a turkey out of the barn and take it to the White House. So what goals did you have to take advantage of this great opportunity?
Some guys raise them in their maybe company barns or pick a grower to do it or a contract family to do it. So we ended up building a brand new barn in my backyard. So a 16 by 20 barn, full foundations, just looks like a regular barn, but we built it solely for those birds. So you only get to take two. I think we started off with 40 or 50 of these guys. So we didn't have just the regular traditional white bird. We also had the gray slate birds, which is an old heritage line. We had the bronze turkey, which would be like your wild turkey. And then we had the Spanish blacks, which were another heritage line. And then our broad-breasted whites. After we got the barn built, we put it together and brought all those birds down to my house. And I raised them from day-old poults all the way up to when we took them to the White House.
The good part is I'll add into that. So Cole just had his first son, my grandson, Case. And so he actually grew up with these turkeys, and he actually went to D.C. with us. So he was just a little critter walking around with the turkeys, and they all got used to him. So he kind of helped tame them a little bit, if you will.
So you said you had to start with 40 or 50 of them, but you're just taking a pair to the White House. They get their own building and everything.
Oh, yeah.
I assume you're establishing a pecking order, for lack of a better term, of good birds versus maybe the ones that might not make the cut. What type of special treatment do you give these things to determine that?
So naturally they'll somewhat select each other out, right? It's in just like any other group of animals. As they got older and they got bigger, I had another local guy that had kind of a funny farm, all kinds of animals. I'd end up giving them to him, and he'd raise them up, help me weed them out. Sometimes I might have selected out the alpha of that farm out of those original 50. So then it changes the whole pecking order for the flock. And so then you kind of went back through the resetting of the pecking order in that flock. And then another one will be selected as the boss of everybody. And it just kind of went like that until we eventually weeded it down to two of them.
How do you go about preparing for something like this? Did you know kind of what to expect throughout this whole process?
We're obviously turkey farmers, so the growing and raising of the turkeys was not an issue for us. That part was all easy. We just probably weren't prepared for all the news coverage, and we had schools coming to my house. We had different groups, like tour buses would come to my house, and we'd tour them through the barn. Here's the presidential flock. So I don't know if there's really a way to prepare for all that, but the turkey side of it was pretty easy for us.
You get it to put your own stamp on each one of these years. So everybody's done it differently. There's no guardrails or no rules. You just got to get 2 turkeys to the White House on Thanksgiving, right? So the preparation really was up to us. We had a lot of fun.
And you guys are used to raising tons of turkeys in large barns, so you got it down to 40 or 50 in a smaller barn. From what I know, you're putting a giant turkey up on a table at the White House. What do you have to do to get these turkeys ready to do that?
Dad spent some time in the barn at my house with a card table. We started with putting the card table in the barn so the birds would get used to it. So, it's a new object. They don't know what it is. They're kind of skittish. So by the time they figured out what it was, they'd already ate all the felt off of the table, and it was just a metal tablecloth. So every day we go in there, we pick up a couple birds, sit them on that, kind of get them used to it, kind of trying to train them to be around a table and or to be picked up. Like Dad said with my youngest son, Case, he was in there every day with me. So they were constantly around humans. It had interaction with us. So they were really docile. They were calm. And they eventually got used to it.
Cassie, Joe, you were basically running communications at Cooper Farms at that time. So you got this huge opportunity with the presidential flock, the pardoning. There's a lot of communication and public relation opportunities involved with this. What was your plan for communication and PR? Some goals you had, some activities you guys conducted with that?
When we first started talking about this, we really sat down and talked about what do we want to do with this? How do you want to amplify the message so we get this great opportunity? What can we do to help our state, help spread the word about turkey? Anything along those lines. It's pretty easy to go reach out to schools and to spread that message a little bit. There's a lot of suburban and metropolitan areas in Ohio that you can go tell them about turkeys. Even in the local communities doing that. So we actually made that a big part of our efforts, was going out and talking to kids so that they can then go talk to mom and dad about it, but help them better understand where that turkey on their Thanksgiving table might come from. Most people have never seen a turkey in their real life. It was exhausting and overwhelming at times, but also really fun to get to tell that story and get to see the kids' reactions and talk about turkey farming as a whole, talk about turkeys themselves, the modern day dinosaur, all the different things that we got to share about that. But then we also brought out legislators. We brought out different news groups. some bloggers. With this, we had a little bit more opportunity to bring people out and show them turkeys and show them production in a smaller scale without as much risk or concern for biosecurity. Sometimes I don't know how we made it through all of it. I'm sure Cole was very sick of me by the end of it all, but
To be honest, I completely forgot about us traveling around with those birds. We went to Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus, Toledo, we went all to the local schools. So that was me with just, a couple big birds in a dog cage in the back of my truck driving to all these. And then I had a little cart that I put them on the cart to get them into the building. I remember when we were at Cleveland that the biggest concern for the kids there, they were just amazed that we, one, put birds in barns, and then for them to understand that we built a building just for these animals, just for this thing. To us, building a barn and raising animals is just what we do. But there was places in the urban communities that, one, never seen a turkey, let alone a live turkey, and one that size. That was all pretty fun, doing the school tours and stuff like that.
So we had to take them down to Columbus to a TV show. And, so they only give you like a few minutes, right? So we get the turkey out and it's walking around, and just within probably, I don't know, let's say 20, 30 seconds before we were supposed to go live, guess what the turkey does on the TV show floor, right? It decides that it needs to go to the bathroom. So I'm like, yeah, well, that's what happens. So
Yeah, you can train them to sit on a table, but you can't train them to not do things elsewhere. So, so there was a little bit of media leading up to November. What all did that involve?
A lot of local stuff, like in our area, Fort Wayne and Toledo, and some of the bigger areas came out to see the turkeys and or like that. So we took the turkeys to them. But then we also had the national media, CBS, I think. Chip Reed came out to my barn. So I warmed the building up, and then we ran out of diesel to run the dang thing. So we're freezing in this barn doing this interview, and it was really fun. The CBS guys were great.
another thing that happened, we had to name the turkey. So, it used to be that you would just choose the names and so on. My brother did it back in 96. The turkey that he took was Carl. Well, Carl was one of our key turkey managers, so he just named it Carl, and that was the name, right? Well, by the time I got to 2014, it became an online voting type of thing, and so ours was mac and cheese, and the one that we actually took to the White House was...
technically they're both pardoned, but
Yeah.
cheese is the one that got to go up on the table. So we had lists of ideas that we provided to the White House. And then the White House chose their 3 finalists, and then they put it on Twitter and had people vote the morning of, actually.
All this is leading up to November. We start 4 years in advance. We know what we're doing. We're building them their own house, having the whole PR type of tour, and working with the turkeys, picking out the turkeys. We get to November, so the event is just a few weeks away. So what happens at this point once you're like, okay, we got to make our decision and move forward and start going through this process to get to Thanksgiving?
We, of course, pre-selected the 2 best toms. You didn't have to worry about maybe a wing coming up and slapping the president in the face, right? And then we wanted to make sure that they strutted. They were kind of proud enough that when they got up there, they would be full feathered, which ours was, did a really nice job. Probably one of the biggest things is how you going to get the turkeys there. In the past, different approaches had been taken. Say you're from California and did that, they would fly them there, and they literally purchased a first-class seat and put the turkey in a cage in the first-class seat of a jet commercial airline. Can you imagine that? Cole and his brother Luke drove them there, so he can tell that story better than I can.
I'm really interested in the travel. What did that entail?
And leading up to the day of that we were going to take them, we scored the best ones, kind of picking the prettiest ones that we could. And then me and one of our vets, Doc Barman, actually gave baths. So we gave him baths in my garage in a giant tub. If you've ever tried to wash a turkey, it doesn't go over so well. I'm holding it and sticking them in the tub, and Doc's trying to wash them down, and I'm trying to rinse them off, and then we had to dry them. So the 2 that were going that we picked, we kept in my garage and put heat lamps on them and all that, trying to get them dry, kind of blow dried them, fluff them up a little bit. So we rented, I think it was a minivan or something like that. It was almost like a mob scene. I'm in the back with duct tape and plastic, wrapping the whole inside of the back of this van. I mean, they were putting shavings in there and give them something to bed into. Me and my brother loaded them up one morning, shut the door, and we took off down the road. That was interesting trip. We had food and water for them if they needed something to drink, but they were really calm on the way down. Me and Luke would play different types of music or make different sounds or whatever, and the turkeys be in the background gobbling. But we found some music they like, other ones they didn't care for, and we hoped they would have went to sleep, but that was non-existent. They stayed awake the whole time, gobbling, walking around, falling into the side of the van, trying to get the front seat with us. It was a pretty interesting road trip down.
What type of music do they like?
Well, I think it was definitely not loud rock, so it was probably country or something like that.
I think their favorite song was Farmer in the Dell.
I'll be darned. I would have no idea what a turkey would like or not like.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So we get down to DC that day, pull up to the Willard Hotel and pop the back of the van open, and anybody that was around was like, why are animals in the back of this minivan? They had a nice little, like a dog kennel for us to put them in to get them inside the hotel. That was quite interesting, the public seeing us walk around with turkeys.
The rental car company had no clue that we were using it as a turkey, live haul trailer, right? Whether it's the shavings, it's the manure, it's the smell, whatever. Like, we got to get this back without them charging some $1,000 cleanup expense bill.
We dumped it off, and I think we kind of wrapped everything up in the plastic and used a whole bottle of Febreze inside the van trying to get the smell out of it.
I'm sure you ran into many people that are just like, what the heck is going on here? What were those reactions? Did you take time to explain to them what was going on? You're just like, nah, it's just a turkey.
Once they got there and they've been traveling, we wanted to get them inside and get them settled down, right? I think we moved them into the Willard Hotel fairly fast, which, by the way, the Willard Hotel is, I think, like a 5-star hotel right across from the White House. And that's where all the turkeys have went. So this is a super nice hotel. But we get them up to the room, and they had their own bedroom. And so we put, plastic down and stuff. So, it's two queen beds. So each turkey had their own bed. Turn the lights out, and, we think we want them to go to sleep. And we go out in the hallway, and all of a sudden they're gobbling, right? And here comes a mom and a little child. And she goes, "What's that?" And I said, "Oh, well, we have a couple of turkeys in that room there." And she's like, "You have what?" And I'm like, yeah, turkeys. Turkeys, we're taking them to President Obama. And she goes, "Oh, can I see them?" And we're, "Yeah, sure." So we walked her in the other connecting bedroom and opened the door. They're like, "I cannot believe there's 2 turkeys in this bedroom. They have their own room with their own beds and TV and everything."
They definitely didn't sleep that night, because I remember being in the other connecting room. Yeah, they were up moving around. We at one point we had them on the bed. We had some media come in and they put them on the bed and wanted them to walk around on the bed. We had the whole hallway up to the beds covered in shavings, and then built like a little pen for them to walk around. So they had free roam of a big old room.
It was really funny because you'd walk down the hallway and there'd be like shavings coming out the bottom of the door. And I'd go over and I'd push it back in and you could hear them in there. I'm sure there's an extra cleaning fee associated with that, correct?
Yeah, I would hope. How far in advance, I guess, of the actual event did you get to the hotel? Is it a day? Is it 2?
So I think we got the turkeys there the Tuesday night. So that morning we had a conference prior to going over to the White House. And then when we took them over to the White House, Cole and I and one of our guys took a pickup over, and we went in the special security gate. We had a pass and everything. They got guns, they got, flak jackets, they got the whole works. We pull in there and they go, "Okay, well, we have to check this truck out." So they're like pulling up the glove compartment box, and they got flashlights, and they're looking underneath the seats. They got mirrors. They got dogs walking around this whole truck and everything. And we're standing there, and the one security guard backed up, and he nudged the other, and he goes, "Hey, what about the turkey there? We checking the turkey. Yeah, we got to check out the back of the pickup and all that straw." He goes, "You gonna do that?" And I goes, "I ain't touching that turkey." "Well, I'm not touching it either." And they both went, "Oh, it's okay." So they let it go.
Good thing you're good guys, huh?
Prior to going over to that, while Dad's giving his speech, my son, and Casey would have been the one. So he was walking at that time, and he was still kind of hobbling around, learning to walk. Everybody was amazed because he was walking right up to the birds, which were bigger than he was and taller than him. And he's nudging them and pushing them and rubbing their heads. And everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, you gotta get your kid away from that turkey." I'm like, he's been around them since they were a day old, and they've grown up together. And the turkeys didn't care that, if anybody else would have walked up, it might have been a little different, but Case knew him, and they listened to Case, and he'd kind of nudge him, push him over here, or they start walk off. He'd go over and get them and bring them back. And everybody just thought that was the neatest thing, that those turkeys didn't touch Case. Case could be around.
So, okay, you get through security. The guys are like, just go ahead. You get in there. Tell us about the event. You get to the White House. What's it like?
They forgot to put Cole and I on the approved list to go in this special gate. And so they said, well, we can take the truck and the turkey in, but you have to wait to be cleared. We're like, oh, no, you're not taking our turkey without us. And they're like, well, we have to, because, we have to take him in the president. Like, nope, turkey stays with us till you get us approved. You tell the president he's going to have to wait. And so they're like, okay, well, we better hurry up and get this figured out, because we got to have that turkey in there. So anyway, so we finally get in. We go into what's called the gold room. And usually it's done in the rose garden outside, because really, typically it's nice and sunny and everybody sits outside. Well, that day it wasn't. So for the first time in, I think, decades, they put it in the entryway of the White House, which was kind of special for us, our family and friends. They got put in there with all the national and world camera crews and everything. I think they said there was maybe 40 or 50 different cameras, trained on where we were going back with President Obama. And so it's all of us close family members now. The two-town turkeys and President Obama and his two daughters walk in. And President Obama was very, very cordial, very friendly. He walked through and met everybody and everything. So, that was very cool to be able to meet the president like that and actually spend some quiet time right before the cameras came on.
You said national and world media. I can't imagine what it's like walking into that. Cassie, Joe, what do you remember from being in front of all that during the actual event?
Picture a bunch of ladders and cameras going in on every rung of the ladder trying to find room so that they can see. So they were stacking in as tightly as they could. Every country, there were tons of languages being spoken behind me as I'm sitting there waiting for things to start. It's neat to see how many people are interested in what's really a fun event in a lot of ways.
And you mentioned that it was the first time in perhaps decades that you actually had a turkey actually in the White House. Right. I'm sure there were different preparations they had to make for that. Cassie, Joe, I believe you told me before they actually had to put down special flooring and stuff like that.
When you got out to where the pardoning was, they were on a rug. And there was, honestly, the MTF guys, that was like their primary job, was to make sure they stayed on the rug. The turkey needs to stay on the rug, cannot step on the marble, cannot step on anything nice. Do not ruin the nice things in the White House.
That's a good rule of thumb there. Yeah.
We also had a backup plan. I was telling the story about Columbus, where the turkey ended up doing this job on the floor right in front of all the cameras. So I was worried that was going to happen right when the cameras kicked on and President Obama was there. And I'm like, hey, where's the restroom at? I get down there and they have these gold stamped embossed towels to wipe your hands with. And they literally had a sign that said there, said, property of the United States of America, do not take. You know what? I need a couple of those towels in case that turkey defecates on the table in front of all of the world. So I stick one in each of my pocket. Well, of course, I forgot they were in my pocket, and I have a
little memento isn't a terrible thing.
Cole, were you more worried about the turkey while you were waiting, or more worried about getting the turkey on the table?
Turkeys that size don't want to be picked up, and they got some pretty big wings on them, and they got some pretty big feet, and their legs are pretty stout. So, there's a proper way to pick up a turkey, but, when you're in front of everybody and all these cameras, and, from around the world, and you got the president there, the last thing you want is to be fighting that turkey to get him up there. But we picked him up and he went right on the table. And, other than keeping our hand on him just to kind of keep him in place where he was at, we were really well behaved.
We're standing there. We're just trying to make sure, like you say, the turkey don't jump off the table, doesn't, smack him in the face with the wing or whatever. Right when it was done, President Obama looked over at me and he goes, really, these turkeys they're not very nice looking, are they? I'm thinking, don't be talking bad about my turkey, right? So I looked at him, I said, well, President Obama, in reality, they're very patriotic. And I pointed at his feathers are white. I pointed at his red wattle and his blue head. And I said, actually, they're very red, white, and blue. He looked at me and he looked at the turkey and kind of went, huh. Walked away.
It's as pretty as they get, Mr. President. Yeah. All right, so we've gone through, they get pardoned. Where's that turkey at now? It's been a long time. I assume the turkey is no longer with us, but where do they go after this? How do they live out their lives?
So in our case, the turkey was actually taken to a local petting zoo on a farm. And so it lived its life out there where, kids and so on could come and visit the turkey. And I think that to some extent they've done the same thing for many years since.
We got an email telling us when they passed away, though. So
Okay.
they let them live in their natural life. And I remember getting an email that let us know that Cheese had passed away, and then a later one saying Mac had passed away. And honestly, they lived a pretty good little life.
And the other 40, 50 turkeys, thank you for your participation. We appreciate
There you go. Yeah.
it.
They lived out their life all fun, waddling around outside.
No, deservedly so. That's great.
Maybe a few of them made them to a Thanksgiving table. We don't know.
Mhm. Well, I want to thank all three of you for joining me today, giving us a little peek behind the feathers of this wild and crazy adventure of taking a turkey to the White House and all that goes into it. Gary, Cole, how can people learn more about Cooper Farms?
Well, you can go to our website, cooperfarms.com, for one. We have a lot of links on there through social media and many different things about our company. So that would be one of the easiest ways.
Well, we really appreciate it again today. We wish you a happy Thanksgiving. And should the opportunity come again, we'll be keeping our eyes open for more Cooper Farms turkeys in the White House.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. What an adventure. Again, to learn more about Cooper Farms and their turkeys, you can visit cooperfarms.com, or you can visit shift-ology.com to learn more about who we are at Shiftology and the services we provide, and even contact us for a 30-minute consultation to learn more about how we can help you with your communication needs. On behalf of the entire gang here at Shiftology Communication, I'm Dan Tolan, wishing you all a very happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next time on Shooting the Shift.